All right, guys. Friday afternoon. The week is done. The intensive is done, except for this review here. So let's lock in and finish strong. Couple big picture things. One, even along the lighthearted banter we just had there in the chat, it's okay to sometimes go against an imbalance. How okay it is to do so is going to depend on a couple factors. One, do you have playbook trades that allow you, from a process-driven perspective, to go against an established imbalance? Some of us do. We used to call them advanced return pullbacks. This day and age, I would call them an advanced extreme fade. Look for order flow, pattern shifts, contextual areas, and kind of put some of that together. And it's possible. I know some NADRO traders who specialize in doing nothing but fading established imbalances. Now, with that said, as a unprofitable trader or a newer trader to NADRO, you need to never fade an established imbalance. That's the advice. So NADRO is one of those things where the advice is not blanket for everybody. Typically, a lot of our discussions this week have been around, guys, here's some things that I'm doing, you're seeing me do. This is not what I recommend for newer traders. And I've tried to be as candid with all that as possible. So anyways, I did want to address that, from a serious perspective. Again, there's the other thing that we just that I balanced this week was wanting certain things for the intensive week versus just exclusively focused on normal trading stuff. So, there was a little bit of that occurred with me. Overall, a very, very, very interesting week to look over my shoulder. We'll take a look as we get into the review here, but there were some things that were just extremely abnormal about this week, about the statistics of mine from my trading this week. Quarter end, I guess brought a little bit of weirdness. However, I think that's a good segue to hop into the review, because there's a lot more to say than some of those things. Overall, I've complained my fair share about the poor conditions. Poor little me on camera. Lack of high quality narrative on most days. Today was the first day I really felt good about what we got from a narrative perspective. And guess what? I didn't get the move I was looking for. But the truth of the matter is that it really comes down to, it's my fault for underperforming this week. That is my takeaway after having spent the past, hour and a half here on this review, essentially. I'll highlight some of the key reasons below, namely some poor scratch outs, a major mistake, which we're aware of that I made on one sequence, and several missed opportunities. You put some of that together there, this was a very different week, despite the garbage conditions for the most part. To be balanced and fair with myself, I did make a lot of really high quality decisions this week. I really did. There's no question there. But the mistakes that I did make were very costly. I don't like to say this about myself. I don't like to say this about other traders, but sometimes it is appropriate. I have one desk trader right now who's kind of struggling, and quite frankly, they're on the bad end of bad luck. I feel like this week for me, I did receive some bad luck. Again, I'm not trying to deflect any responsibility here, guys. My main takeaway is that it's on me that I didn't have a better week. And I genuinely believe that. But there was some bad luck with some random stuff. Some of the decisions, some of the areas in which I was all in on going for an idea were some of the worst sequences. Some of the areas where I said, I'm going to pass on this were some of the easiest ones. So there's a little bit of bad luck to some of those decisions this week for sure. Some bad luck in terms of these conditions are not good. I'm going to step off the desk, and then boom, there you go. There was some of the easier trades. So a little bit of bad luck involved. I'm trying to stay objective. It's mostly my fault. But in the end, I had a lot of fun trading and talking about my trading with this community this week. And I look forward to doing better next week in my trading. And I look forward to doing better next intensive. I didn't do a bunch of markups on these in particular. That's more of, real quick, just as a high level teaching point, your weekly review should look differently than your intraday review. I think for a weekly review, it's cool to include screenshots just for a nice, neat thing. If not, you could go back and I could go back into this other folder and link back to daily reviews and whatnot. But the weekly review is different. We're going to introduce some stats and whatnot. Spoiler alert, there was really nothing from the stats that I feel like I can identify. There was an issue that the stats alert me to that we can improve upon based on things that are within our control. I don't really see that from the stats from me this week. So we're just going to kind of go through them kind of quickly. Around 2R before fees, right? Before commissions, things like that, which are they're very low for me. So it doesn't usually make a big impact on my trading. But around 2R for the week, I rounded down, if you will, to a more negative number. Win percent 35%. That's a little low. It's not weird. It's not really odd, because I will dip into the 30s quite routinely. But a lot of times, if I'm dipping into the 30s, we're going to see the other end of the expectancy formula look really good, and it didn't this week. Which brings us to the next point. Average win-loss ratio, only 1.4. You may be surprised, because what did we do? We had a couple of really big wins, not as big as they could have been on several of them, but some big wins relative to our losses. You see my largest winner to loser ratio was 4-1 for the week. I work with traders, and this is it could have been so much bigger. I work with a lot of traders who are closer to 1-1 on their largest winner to largest loser over the past 3 or 4 or 5, 6 months. And that's unacceptable. You need to be skewing risk reward better in your favor. So anyways, 1.4. It's what's the word? It's skewed. It's not an accurate depiction of the way I was putting risk reward in my favor this week. And why is that? Number one, there were several trades this week with really, we would get a scale and then kind of a small losing scratch. And overall, you make a tiny sliver of P&L, a few ticks, a very small amount of a unit of risk. And those go into that average winner calculation. We didn't have a ton of winners, so we didn't get that skew of the bigger ones to kind of the average be over there. It's kind of like in between that 3-4R that we could get on some trades and the 0.17R that we got on other trades where we got scaled and then stopped. And as I mentioned, we essentially had 3 decent winners this week. 5 trading days, 3 decent winners. That's tough sledding. And yes, all my stats are flat to flat. That's the way to do it. It doesn't make any sense for someone who's trading multiple contracts to focus on the individual contract stats. Here's another very big anomaly for the week, and that's when we take a look at hold times. Average hold time for winners, 8 minutes. That's nuts for me. Average hold time losers, 7 minutes over the past few months. That's not weird. A lot of times I'm timing my trades pretty precisely, and if I'm wrong, I'm scratching, I'm out pretty quickly. Average hold time for winners only being 1 minute longer. I think it was like 8 minutes and 11 seconds or something like that. That is extremely low. Why is that? Partly my fault. And partly due to the market not giving us more winners that we could sit in for an hour and a half. We just didn't get many of those. Again, part of it was my fault with some overly aggressive scratching. Part of it was the market. So it's kind of both. But this is a very, very telling number. If I continue to see, maybe there is a nice takeaway for the stats, at least something to monitor going forward. And that's going to be that average hold time for winners. I'm not worried about it because I've been doing this long enough. It's going to be better next week, the week after. It is. But let's say that I'm not that confident in that, and I'm not that experienced, or let's say that for whatever reason I'm wrong. My confidence is misplaced. If I don't see that average hold time move up to 20, 39 minutes, that kind of thing on average, I've either drastically been scalping or there's an actual issue with some of the issues that I had this week, which I feel like some of my scratch outs were very costly. So again, let's talk about that pendulum, that spectrum that I give myself to operate on a really, really high level of discretion, bring it back, be much more rules-based, much more process-driven. I gave myself a lot of discretion there on some scratches. And ultimately this week, I think several of those decisions cost me quite a bit of multiple units of risk. So anyways, that's the takeaways from the stats. There's really not much there. I think it's very easy at times to just blanket surface level take whatever the stats tell you and like make drastic decisions and changes from those. I have seen enough stats and seen enough from my trading to know that essentially these stats make sense for the mistakes I made this week and the conditions that this week provided or didn't provide. And so there's just not a ton for me to garner from the stats. But average hold time is something I definitely want to watch going forward. Make sure that gets back up into healthier, longer duration, multiples of whatever the average loser hold time is. Things I did poorly. Monday, a scratch out really cost me. Remember that little second scratch? I kind of thought there was more order flow there. I kind of got scared out of the trade. And that cost me from catching the big down move. I ended up, chasing with a momentum entry, which made a little bit, I guess, or ended up a scratch. It gave me a chance to make some money. But that scratch really cost me and put me behind the 8 ball, so to speak. Also, I was too conservative on Monday, day 1 of the intensive. I didn't want to do too much, too advanced, too freewheeling compared to what you guys are looking to see in terms of just standard NADRO trading. And so I was a little hesitant, a little too conservative on what, all those scalps I was narrating that day about, this could be a nice little scalp and I'm not going to do it, blah, blah, blah. So too conservative there. Tuesday, that's the big mistake sequence. We tried twice to get in the short from the perfect trade location. From our main narrative on the session, one of our hypos, and all of a sudden, again, that hesitant pass on the reentry And next thing you know, I'm getting long, going against the trade location, the acceptance read, major mistake. It's fine to scalp against a narrative, guys, but you better not be doing it at the worst possible place. I was in the middle of DVA. I got too attached to variables that aren't normally a part of the read. I went directly within the vicinity against a main kind of area that we were looking to be trading short from. And so it was a bad mistake. Took 2 full losses doing so, right? So I wasn't even conservative enough with maybe scratching out, not giving them a full chance. I lost too much, and it was an even bigger opportunity cost to not participate in the downside on that day. All in all, by the way, I think several students, some folks in AGM, some of you just in the community, traded much better than I did this week. And I'm not jealous. That really does delight me. It really, really does make me happy. And I love to see it. You guys, in some senses, luck was on your side where you chose to take some scalps where I chose to pass on them. Not that there's no skill involved there, but in all, some of that stuff is like sample size here and there and whatnot. But in general, a lot of really good trades. You guys were in your seat more than me. You were there for those easier trades that set up, which when we get to Wednesday, we missed that easy best trade of the day, right? Once we were trying to get involved. It fell apart. We backed off. That was good. And then it reset up better than ever. Better acceptance, really nice imbalance. And I wasn't there to take it. So I missed it. I do, as we've gone through with the daily reviews, some of these I did give myself something of a pass upon. But it's still a miss, right? It's still something that if I was more serious and active about being in my seat and grinding, I could have traded it. So Thursday, another really costly scratch. Remember that core position we were in from the highs, short, and I signed off the morning call saying, let's back off. Here's some advice for you guys. Don't be overly short term with your trade management once you get to a core position. And then I chose to get a little too granular and exit that core position. So a lot of my discretionary scratch calls this week were very costly. Again, a lot of you caught that full move into that weekly IPB, and some of you even caught the long off the lows. I caught a little bit at the end of the day, I think, unless I'm getting my days confused. Which takes us to Friday. Missed an easy IPB. Remember how often I talked about, hey, let's wait on it to get over the 103 or whatever that level was, that old CVA high. Hey, if we're imbalanced up, if the buyers are there and we get that extra confirmation of holding above that level, that's going to be a good imbalance pullback. Did I take that trade? No, I took 6 others, but not that one, not the easy one, right? Again, it was missed. I wasn't there. I'd taken a break after a call, that kind of thing. But it's another big miss, that another big opportunity cost for this week. Also, the discretionary scratch out prior to that had me flat. And remember, it was chopping and I was like, okay, there's no way they don't run these lows. Let's stand aside. And then we made the joke about how, somebody's like, he's out, let's run it. And it just started to ramp. So that, again, that discretionary scratch, I stand by that the probabilities of the scratch were there. But quite frankly, this week, my ability to discretionarily decide, you know what, let's get out of this core position, to discretionarily decide, hey, I know we've been sitting through this for 10 minutes and it's just garbage sideways action, but now I think I have a read that we need to be out of this. Quite frankly, I wasn't that good. I just wasn't that good. And so something I want to really monitor going forward is perhaps I'm too far on that spectrum right now of discretionary scratching. I might need to move the needle back towards more process-driven trade management, and take myself out of the equation there, right? My process is a better trader than I am, but I'm constantly trying to find out where that sweet spot is for me at any given time. So I underlined, several of these things, and as you see, there's other than the big acceptance read mistake, and being a little too conservative. That's a very minor point in the scope of this, but it's missed opportunities and poor discretionary trade management decisions, right? That's it. That's the summary of the week for sure. Things I did well. Let's be balanced here. Monday, great job with some re-entries, staying with an idea. I feel like I did that well several times, even to my own demise, right? It was some good decisions to stay with an idea. And then at one thing we'll see from a lot of these underlined things is I recognized when it was no longer a good idea to stay with an idea. I did a great job of that this week. Tuesday, good recognition of a momentum-based entry candidate morphing into giving it a real chance to work. Recall that, again, because of the scratch out, I then chased it lower. I got some really nice scales on the bulk of the position. And then it morphed into this thing where I kind of could add a little more size and give it a real room. Kind of, it changed the trade. I just thought that was a really good sequence. It didn't work. It didn't work, but that doesn't matter. It was a really nice sequence. And then a very, very important thing on Tuesday, right? Because that was the day where I made the mistake with the acceptance picture read. I think that was just prior to that momentum entry. Great job not letting poor trading affect my decision-making anywhere beyond the poor trading that occurred itself. That, my friends, is pure gold, because what is the problem for most traders, and with me for years and years and years? What's the problem? You make a mistake, or the market wicks you out of a position, or you get top ticked, or blah, 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 blah. It's either the market or it's you, and it doesn't matter, but it's viewed as a negative thing, whatever happened. And guess what happens next? You're like a basketball player that makes a stupid turnover. What does that basketball player do? They run down the court as the other team is transitioning, and they commit a stupid foul, which compounds the error that they just made, but they're trying so hard to make up for it. Traders do that too. Humans do that. Let's face it. We got to move past that. And I did I can't speak highly enough about that compliment. What I did well on Tuesday. It didn't affect me. I knew that it sucked. I lamented out loud about it with you guys a couple times. And I think I also said, like, hey, I'll deal with this in the review. Pretty sure I said that. Let's compartmentalize that. Let's lock it down. We understand mistakes are going to happen. You're not going to be perfect. Let's stay objective. Let's stay in the zone. Let's stay at the hard right edge. And it made some good trades. That's super important. Wednesday, great job taking what was given, which wasn't much. I would hold out for what I wanted to be a better scale, and hold out for the last moment until it just was like, no, you are not getting what you want. Take what I'm giving you. And that's what I did. Great job taking what was given and not overstaying my welcome, forcing any ideas once it was, obvious. Again, going with what is, taking what was given. Right into Thursday, great job attempting to go with what is at every step of the way, including a perfect flip to short. Remember, I was trying to go long with the grindy imbalance, and then boom, we got that. It was such a cool pattern. We can go look at it, but we've been through it. It was like DVA was here, and it was like we were going with this imbalance, and all of a sudden it started to look like this. And I think I was like, oh, look, it's like a flag within a flag or something. I forget exactly the way it was, but I flipped. A lot of, in fact, one thing I didn't write in here was a lot of good, tricky time acceptance based reads this week. I did a good job of identifying some of those. Flip the short once we got acceptance in the DVA. Great scale outs, as I mentioned, especially during the difficult early grind chop, similar to Wednesday as well. Friday, we got some again early horrible trading of not trading, early horrible movement, lack thereof. We took our foot off the gas. We recognized the conditions. We recognized what is not doing a lot of damage to the P&L. Nice aggressive entry late in the session that I posted about. It was an advanced play, went against an imbalance. But guess what was different about it? The price action opened up. The order flow had indeed shifted, and all of a sudden we're getting cleaner price action following a contextual order flow shift. That opens me up at my level of trading to be more aggressive and to bend more rules and to use my skill set and experience of timing turns to do that. I did not short when I made the Twitter top call. That was just for kicks. That was just me having fun. Yeah, somebody jotted in here about from Tuesday. He was then in a good trade, started to talk to us. He was getting mad about the bad trades and immediately realized, and he instantly recovered. Just moved on to the next trade. Talked himself into focusing, saying reviewing the trades is for review time. Now's the time to focus on the trades. So yeah, I mean, good on you taking notes like that, observing things like that. That's what the intensive week is all about, guys. That is what it's all about, is taking whatever nuggets you can from me, what as few and far between as they may come, taking those nuggets and then taking notes and applying it and looking to find out how you can do that in your trading. Overall, and looking ahead, a rough one, right? Not a week I'm going to be moping around over the weekend, but not a great week of trading. Guess what? It happened. It's going to happen again. It's part of it. Certainly pretty poor conditions, but my own mistakes and missed opportunities are the main reason, as well as extending my limits of discretionary scratching. Main reason for the small down week. I could have performed much better, even with the conditions. Things I can do next week to improve, things that are within my control. No silly basic mistakes, sir. No crap acceptance reads. You can take your scalps against narrative at times, but not within the proximity of an actual narrative hypo setting up. That's intolerable. Number two, and this is a minor one because I feel like it was situational that it with you guys that it didn't happen, but give myself that freedom to take those best scalp opportunities without hesitation, right? Just back doing my thing with some of the more shorter term scalp stuff. Number three, be around for the easy trades. If I'm gonna get up and take that break, if I'm gonna move off the desk, set alerts. I do not want to miss the easy trades next week. I missed too many easy trades this week, and as we know, it cost me. Things I can continue to do well. Again, stay balanced in your review work, guys. Give yourself negative feedback where it's objectively appropriate. Give yourself positive feedback. Some of us are on ends of the spectrum of what's normal to us. We like to kind of be nice to ourselves, or we like to be mean to ourselves. I tend to be on the mean side. So I tend to always, ever since I learned this from Dr. Steenbarger, be more balanced, make sure that I include the positives. So things I can continue to do well, staying in tune with what is, being adaptive in that sense, not getting locked into some idea. Very nice, very flexible, very fluid this week. I want to continue to do that. Not letting mistakes affect my decision-making on the following sequences. We covered that. Giving myself freedom to take those scalps, given they do not directly within the proximity of a main level go against that main hypo for the session. So I want to relax this weekend, come back fresh for next week. So that's a pretty good example of a good weekly review. Again, this week was different. It was a different kind of week. But we had fun. Who wants to do something where it's the same thing every day and it's easy day after day and it's easy week after week? Thank goodness we're traders involved in markets, getting to do this, getting to be challenged, getting to push boundaries of ourselves and our understanding and our awareness and everything. There's no better job to do, but it is a job. I think a lot of people want trading to not be a job. It's a job. You need to treat it as such. It's a business. You need to treat it as such. It's not just about your own flexibility and freedom and making a ton of money. It's a job. You got to grind. You got to do some things that you don't want to do. You got to, even at times I have to take a trade that I don't want to take, right? My process is a better trader than I am, that type thing. Guys, thank you for putting your trust in me to help you, even if in some small way. I'd love to help you in some big way, right? And I hope that maybe for some of you this week it did. Obviously, you can go back and watch the recordings. I would say that it's, it's not just, it's like the NADRO course. If you went through the NADRO course once and you think you know NADRO, you are sorely mistaken. You need to go through these things. You will pick up the more you, and some of you who are newer to NADRO and did the intensive, it's tough. You're going to need to go through NADRO 5 more times and then come watch this intensive and you'll be like, whoa, I had no idea what he was doing there, but you're going to grow in that understanding. So use those recordings to go deeper in and peel back another layer of the onion, so to speak, as you deepen your own understanding. So I hope that this week deepened your understanding of some things in some ways. And again, thanks everybody for the great questions and helping each other out and all that. Let's continue that. We'll close this thread here, but let's continue the good talks in the community. Start some journals if you don't have one, all that good stuff. Keep it up. Thank you guys again. Cheers.